Alright, this is going to be my warm-up for my Corona cup. I'm going to try and do one live, but if there's any problems with connectivity or anything like that, then I can post this one. I may post it anyways. I like to do this in color, but I always do it first in clear. So I've got a point, a piece of tubing, and I'm just going to preheat it. Get it to a nice even temperature. This is borosilicate or Pyrex glass, so I didn't need to flash it at the back of the flame or preheat it by garaging it in the kiln. But you can do that too with big thick Pyrex or other types of glass. I'll just heat it up slowly. The bigger I blow it, the thinner it gets, so it's always a balance. I don't want it to be too thin. If it starts to go a little off center, you can monitor it. But you want to do that as little as possible. Every time you touch your tools to it, it sucks the heat out of the glass. Oftentimes that doesn't suck it out evenly. You want that heat to go in there evenly. I'm just going to blow this a little round. If I want it to be a squat or bubble, I can use gravity just to let it fall back on itself ever so slightly. I've got some 10mm rod. Grabbed what I had cut. You might want to start a little bit smaller if you're going to try this. I'm also going to do a larger cup, but this is just going to be a smaller shot glass. I'm going to start about halfway down the bubble. Heat up a blob, heat the bubble, touch the two together, and just kind of wait a second. I'm going to give a little puff, and that kind of incorporates the hollow bubble into this solid addition, makes for a smoother connection and transition from thick to thin. And I pull it out, kind of completing my tape. Working around the central point, keep everything warm. Sculpting off of hollow is difficult because your hollow wall and your thick attachments pull off at different rates. But it's a lot like an octopus, if any of you guys have joined me for that class. I flash my core, my center, but I don't really worry about flashing every single tentacle or every single attachment here. So I'm going to do a spike on the opposite side now. So you want to get about as much as you got hot. Preheat right where it's going to go. Touch. A little push-pull. Kind of wait for a second. And I like to give a little puff. Real gently. And then I go back and put that heat back into the solid piece of glass. Pulling it out to a taper, and then using the flame to cut it right where I want. And when it's thin and right where I want, I give a little pull, flick of the wrist, and flame cut that. Now, if I wanted to attach things to the tips of these, I could do that. I would probably prefer to do it later, after it's cooled down. It's easy to heat those tips up without worrying about anything cracking. Just like heating the tip of a tiny little 2-3mm piece of glass. So again, heat, get about the same size as you had before. You just kind of have to remember, we're eyeing it, we're eyeing volumes of liquid, which is difficult. That's why we use measuring cups when we make. The thick blob stays hot. And that thin wall becomes hot from the two touching, and so a little bubble blows through the wall into the solid attachment. Don't spend too long on making these look pretty. If you can make them look pretty at one shot, great. And if not, you want to keep working on your attachments, keeping this whole central point warm. Flashing just that bubble. Then working my way from one side of the bubble, from the middle of the bubble to one end. I'll come back to the other end to open it up. Get enough hot for about the size you want. Same size as before. And then just flash where you're going to attach it. You don't have to get it red hot, molten. Just a little preheat. And pull slowly. If you pull too quick, it'll pull out real thin right away. Pull it out if you want to be a little bit shorter, a little bit longer. That's also something you can do later. Of course, I'll do those types of things after it comes out of the kiln, and then I'll actually re-anneal. Can't hurt to anneal. Make sure they're all the same length. Add any other little embellishments you may want to the tips. You can do it hot, but it would require a lot of flashing. Or you would do it after the whole thing's cooled down and not go back and flash. One more. Touch down, kind of give a little bit of a push-pull. And wait, you're allowing it to freeze up. And go back and reintroduce heat into that gather that you had. It should only take a second to reheat it. Very slowly pull it out. You can also use your tweezers if you feel more comfortable pulling the tweezers. Again, don't take too long. Let's do another row. Touch down, pull away, a little bit of a push-pull to kind of just feel where it's at. I'm pulling it out to a point. A little bit shorter than once before. Hopefully, we can get our mouths around this to actually take the shot. Flashing as I'm eating. Just like making an octopus. Touch down, pull away. If it's drooping one way, you can just grab it and let it droop the other way. Sometimes it'll go a little up or a little down when it's that hot. And you can go back and forth across the piece as you're adding your attachments, like for the first row, or on this row, I'm going around the piece. You can also make your way around. So you kind of either want to go front, back, left, right, or we say north, south, east, west, sort of thing. Or if you're thinking about hands on the clock, it would be like 12, 6, 9, 3. or you can just work your way around the clock. Either way. But those are the order of operations that we have to think about in order to keep things from cracking. Little puffs. Nice and slowly to give myself a nice little point, kind of watching where it is and adding heat where I want it to be a little bit thinner or too tight. Okay, a few more. And then I need to add a few more. Go refill your drinks now. I'll still be doing this. But these in themselves are great practice. They're just like the octopus. You have so many chances to practice on one piece. Do a couple of these and you'll get it down. You'll probably crack a few learning how. I may even crack this one now. But I'm going to try not to, but it's just part of the process. It gets a little stressful when you have more going on, even though you want to treat it just the same. This handle's a little short, so we'll work through it. One more on this row. If the wall of your tube is thicker, you want to get it a little bit hotter before you make your attachment. And if it's thinner, you really want to be careful that heat will transfer right into it from the torch, and it will. You can also just count on it transferring into it from the gather itself, so you can heat it a little bit less. There's a little bit of heat transfer between the two pieces of glass. Starting to look menacing. Flash, flash, flash in between each step. More so if you're doing anything like this in soft glass. It's the biggest difference. Remove the stringer created, make a little pile of those. That is how I was taught to pull them out long like that. Roger Paramore showed me that. He does it with his hollow tubing to create the folio. You know, you kind of watch it thicken up and pull it to a point. Push pull, puff. Just makes for a smoother transition from thick to thin. Push pull incorporates the glass a little bit, but also allows me to kind of feel where it's at, if that heat is to the core, or if there's a little stiffness behind it. I need to get it a little bit hotter. Push pull right there. Puff, 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 puff. It's hot enough, you shouldn't have to blow until you're blue in the face. If you're blowing until you're blue in the face, it means it's not hot. Yeah. shorter. I've got a backup rod here. Probably gonna put one more row on to see if I can't get it to stand up on some spikes. I'm just kind of pushing them so that they're straight. Try not to spend too much time on it. Flashing. This is where it always wants to crack, right? But we're not at the end yet, so you don't want to crack it. The longer you work on it, the more stress that gets built up in the piece. The more little connections you have that are likely possible to crack. If all your welds are good, these connections, every time you make them nice and smooth, then you can get away with a lot more than if the connections are not smooth. So that's a big part of it. Lots of long flashes, or lots of little flashes. If you forget and just do less long flashes, it's really getting cold. You're really stressing the glass out. But if you can remember just to flash often, you won't have to flash as long. I'm going to do one more row, just because. Gotta push the limits of the material, even though there's more and more stress built up. Go for it. Flashing between each step, using the back of the flame while I'm preheating my clear rod. And flash. Preheat your next one. Spot. Get this hot first, and then get the little spot where it's going to go hot. Now pull away, push pull, push pull. In the back of my head, I know that all my connections, my piece is getting pulled, so I want to flash it as soon as I can. I'm already thinking about that. I'm sure some of you guys are as well. So a lot of it, you want to work quick. So as you get better at it, you can work quicker, and that will have a lot to do with your survival. We have our thin wall of our vessel cooling much quicker than these thick little attachments, so it's contracting. All those attachments are still hot and expanded. Cracks are almost inevitable, but we do our best to keep the whole thing warm, the whole thing expanded. And then pull it slowly in the kiln, annealing it, allowing us to remove some of that stress that gets built up from the pieces expanding and contracting and pushing and pulling against each other on this brittle glass. So the Carlisle that I'm using here, this outside knob's very sensitive, so you may or may not be able to see, but I kind of just hit it with my wrist to turn it on and off. Good flash. Just a couple more. You can do it. You really only needed 3 to make it stand up. That would make for a nice tripod. Fit as many as I can here though. Pull it down for a second. Give a little push. Okay. So now let's try to open it up. So I can use any pieces of handle. I'm going to attach a handle to the bottom. Sometimes we use a punty. This one I'm going to fuse to it completely. I can heat it and melt it off to remove it later. I welded that handle to it well. I'm going to flash the whole really well. I want a small flame to heat just the very tippy tip of this. I want to blow and pull. One way to open up a vessel. Very small, sharp flame. What's called a flame cut. So I'm heating that thin glass and pulling. And it pulls it so thin, just the pressure from the flame pops itself open. And flash. Not so much it flops around. I want to get it from every angle. And then it's hard to move the glass where we have attachments, but I think I can open this up just enough. Let's take a shot at it. And flash. So then my last step is going to be to remove it. There's a number of ways to do that. My little holders here will fit. These are inside out, so I can go on the inside or the outside with them, which is nice. Flash, and little flame. And again, I'm using my arm to control my torch, if you can see that. It's not magic. There is our finished piece. Let's see. Alright, I'll see you guys here soon, Friday night. If we're not running this one, we'll run it afterwards. But I'm looking forward to it, and you can see practicing. Alright, it's in the kiln at 10:50, and I don't really have to nail those too long, but it's early in the day, so it'll be out either if I bring it down after lunch or by the morning, and that's plenty enough time to strengthen that piece and then nail it. Alright, thanks so much. Have a good one. I can see now I'm borrowing glasses because I'm waiting for a pair to come in from Orleans, but I kind of like these. Alright, have a good day. Bye.